Browns fans, it's time to talk about some of the biggest rumors going on within the Cleveland Browns organization right now. That includes quarterback. That includes head coach. You know what it means, Browns fans. Let's get to all of it here on today's show. Welcome in. I'm your host, Joey O'Donohue, ready to answer some questions for the Browns fans. Faithful, hit that sub button if you want to be a part of videos just like this. And without further ado, I say we get right into it. Our friend Dillon Sutcliffe wants to know, when do you think Shedeur will make his debut? It's a great question. I'm sure a lot of people have this same question, Dillon. Let's tell you what I know and what the Browns have done that gives us evidence of when it will be. Well, he hasn't gotten reps with the first teamers, and this is something that has outraged a lot of people, right? I mean, you're not preparing for Shedeur to come in, especially since, he's quarterback 2, supposedly, on the depth chart. That was how it was 2 weeks ago, before they ruled him inactive with a back injury against the Patriots. Well, he's practicing again, and it seems like, you probably have the update by now that he isn't active, but on Wednesday, Stefanski said that he'll be limited, and they're going to take the next couple days to see how he does, but he's pushing very hard in rehab. So my point still stands, though, that he hasn't gotten the reps. So what if Gabriel gets hurt and he's the backup? Are you just throwing him into the fire? I don't know. They haven't really prepped him as if he's going to be the starter. So I think it's getting a little worrisome that the Browns might want to finish out the year with Gabriel. I don't think that's going to be the case, but they haven't shown us any sign that they want to turn to Shedeur. This could be a sign that Stefanski's linked to Gabriel, and if he's wrong, well, his job's not safe. And it might be a thing next year where you are firing coaches and then benching Gabriel. A lot to look into, Browns fans, but when I think he'll make the debut is probably the last 4 weeks of the season. I think he gets those last 4 games if Cleveland's out of it, and Gabriel just continues to look bad in his next few starts. Shedeur will finish out the season. That's my prediction. But they have not shown that they want to do this anytime soon. So once you see that change in practice, that Shedeur starting to practice with first teamers, I think you can start to get a little bit of an inkling that, all right, they're going to move on from Gabriel this year. Next one coming in from Rose, Browns Jets, or as I like to say, cripple fight. Well, the Jets not only crippled, but they kind of going on a fire sale here, selling out their 2 best players on defense, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, and no longer members of the football team. Cleveland can absolutely exploit this Jets defense, go out there, dominate, and that Jets run defense with Quinnen Williams is 6th worst in the NFL. They give up 135.8 yards per game. You know what I say to that? This man is going to have a field day against New York. Quinshon Judkins' shoulder, we're told, is better. Should be good to go. And just absolutely wreak havoc on that New York Jets football team. Expect Judkins to go crazy. So don't you worry, Rose. There's going to be some excitement for the Browns coming up this Sunday. Amani Edits said, you want to know what's funny? Is that Dillon Gabriel had said, there are entertainers and there are competitors, and I'm here to compete. Yet we can't even compete with the high school. It's funny, A-Money, you bring that up. I remember that quote vividly. In preseason, Gabriel saying there's entertainers and competitors, sent people in a frenzy. What people don't maybe remember, or at least we don't talk about it that much, is Dillon Gabriel threw a pick 6 in that preseason game. There were mistakes in his preseason too, when he won the starting job. Like, my analysis of him not being as talented as Shedeur is from what I've watched and what I'm watching right now. And so I remember this quote, the offense has looked very stagnant. Yards per attempt is less than 5 for Dillon Gabriel right now. Worst in the league. We don't move the ball. And, the rookie quarterbacks that both want to start. They both want to be the guy. So I'm sure there is a little bit of a competitive fire there. It's kind of like your coworkers, when your coworker gets a promotion or a shout out. It's like, yeah, you're happy for them, but, you also want it too. And that's where I think you might get a little bit of these type of comments from Dillon, from Shedeur, as well. But hey, we're just rooting for the Browns to find a quarterback, man, and we have not found it yet. L. Smith, Darnold, Jones, Baker. We can't judge yet. Let's rebuild offensive line and wide receiver room in the draft. Reassess next year. If so, which offensive lineman and wide receiver do you take? The first part of this, L. Smith, starts to lead me to believe, not lead me to believe, this is what I think. There might be a system problem in Cleveland because we're seeing multiple examples of quarterbacks in the league that have failed in a system. To your point, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. Baker didn't fail. He always had talent. But Joe Flacco this year, let's say. And then they go play somewhere else, and all of a sudden they're balling out. So if you're saying that Dillon Gabriel would look good in another system, this specific example I don't buy into. I'm not seeing it from Dillon. I saw it from Baker. I never wanted to trade him. But to your point, the most important thing for the Cleveland Browns this year in the upcoming NFL draft should be to hammer, load up on offensive linemen, and get a stud wide receiver if you can. I love Carnell Tate. I want an Ohio State Buckeye to rep the brown and orange next year. Ohio State's becoming wide receiver university lately, by the way. You look at Emeka Egbuka in Tampa Bay. You look at Garrett Wilson. Look at Chris Olave. Marvin Harrison Jr. Bring me Carnell Tate, Cleveland Browns. And then offensive line-wise, looks like Spencer Fano, probably the top guy on the board right now. And so maybe Cleveland has like pick around like 10. I'd like Fano to come on over. But their early pick, get the best lineman in the draft. I'm with you. Intel plays. Hashtag Browns. You guys think Tommy Rees will get a real opportunity to change up the offense, or is he just going to be a scapegoat with Stefanski's playbook like Dorsey? It's a good question, Intel plays, because it will be the same playbook, right? What Tommy Rees is getting is control over which plays to call. Stefanski also told us he will have the final say, though, and so it will be a little bit Stefanski-esque. It's going to have his mark on it. And so I think it will provide some juice. I think it will, coming off a bye against a bad team, it's going to look electric, I would hope. And Jerry Jeudy might benefit more than anybody else with this change. That's what happened last year. With Ken Dorsey, his numbers were astronomically better, vastly different. That's where he totaled nearly 1,000 yards last year. I mean, Jeudy had 1,200. Sixth most in the NFL. 3 touchdowns as well. I mean, maybe it will benefit Jeudy more than anyone. And that seems to be the emphasis right now. The focus in Cleveland is get him the football in the press conferences. Last week, obviously, wasn't the case. But this week, Stefanski's been very adamant about it, saying he's our best receiver. We have to get him the football. And so, if anyone's going to benefit, I think it'll be the wide receiver. Like I said, I think Judkins will tear it up as well. Run all over that Jets defense. It's going to be exciting to watch. I think it'll help this Sunday. But to your point, I don't think this is the fix for the future. If it still looks bad in a few weeks, it's a coach and scheme problem. And his days, Kevin Stefanski's that is, would be numbered in Cleveland. We got a lot more rumors to get into, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere. First, I'm going to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineup when you play your first $5. Football is in full swing now on Sundays, and I'm big into daily fantasy with Prize Picks. I'm obsessed with it because it makes all the games more entertaining. And before the Browns play, I lock in on all my players in my lineup and their player projections. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. You can do that with my lineup if you want. And you know I've got Quinshon Judkins in there Quinshon Judkins, more than 79.5 rushing yards. Also going to take Jackson Dart, more than half a passing touchdown, and Bryce Young, more than half a passing touchdown. It's one of my favorite picks to make on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Let's go to FireAB. That's quite the username. Hashtag Browns. Would you rather have the 49ers staff with the Browns team or Browns staff with 49ers team? What a question here from FireAB. Sounds like you hate the Browns staff. Let's say that. My first thought here, we don't inherit the 49ers medical staff, do we? Because all our players would be injured if that was the case. However, I think the Browns staff would not have much success with Brock Purdy in the Niners offense, especially how banged up it is. Their wide receiver room's pretty thin now, actually, too, due to injuries. The Browns defense, second in the NFL right now in terms of total defense. I bet that Niners staff, Kyle Shanahan, could work some magic. He could bring the most out of Njoku, Fannin, Judy. Make us look a little better. Tillman, under Shanahan, see a breakout year, I would imagine. Bond, Judkins. Guys, we have good players. We need an offensive line, absolutely. But I also think he'd develop the Browns quarterbacks mostly. Once we get to Shedeur, he'd flourish. He could probably make Gabriel like a Brock Purdy. Purdy didn't have to do it much on some of the Niners Super Bowl runs. So obviously we'd still need a team around us on offense, but I'd take that Niners staff with the Browns team. Next up, we got the squad. Always cooks. How many sacks will Garrett get? Coming off the big record-breaking 5-sack performance against New England, that was electric. Unfortunately, it resulted in a loss. Somehow a blowout loss. I don't understand how that's possible when you have 5 sacks. One player. This week, though, against the Jets, I imagine him to get home as well. 5 sacks is insane. Like, to project he would get that much would be crazy. But I could see him having an absolute field day, and I'm going to give him 2 sacks this Sunday. We can get hyped about it and celebrate. Playing like a defensive player of the year once again. Big 95. Miami Mac, $5 super chat. Did y'all see the meme where they say we should combine Bengals offense with Browns D? Would be unstoppable. Miami Mac, that would be absolutely electric. Don't get me fantasizing about if the Cleveland Browns had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins with our defense, instant Super Bowl for 3 years. I mean, literally. Be the most stacked team ever. It is pretty funny how we're polar opposites in that regard. The Bengals defense is atrocious. We have Cincinnati beat by a mile in that margin, by a country mile. And obviously offense, they probably have us beat in that regard. So combine the two, make one team. Let's rule the AFC North. Unfortunately, we hate the Bengals, so we're not going to team up with them. But apparently we will trade with them and give them a starting quarterback. Moving on, Irish Red. Our offensive line was never the same when Callahan left. Would love to have him back. It's a good point here from Irish Red. Bill Callahan, who is up for grabs now, by the way, after Brian Callahan was fired from the Tennessee Titans, Bill left as well. Bring him back. Browns really did have one of the best offensive lines in the league years ago. And obviously the guards were still there, playing well, Teller and Bitonio. It's the tackles that's an issue. I mean, Conklin too, though. To your point, like, I think someone like Callahan would help out, bring out the best in them as an offensive lines coach. It's looked awful this year. Might be our biggest issue. That's why I think next year's draft, you load up on linemen as early and fast as you can. Next up, we got Hugh Jazz, a Jazz fan. Why is Joe Flacco balling out now? Is it just because of the wide receivers in Cincinnati? It's another great question here from Hugh. Joe Flacco, he was a problem the first 4 weeks of the season for the Cleveland Browns. Turning it over at an unbelievable rate. And yes, it's true that Cincinnati has stud wide receivers that are absolutely going to help his case. He's a veteran quarterback. That's the type of system you'd want to put him in to actually have success. And that's evidenced by Flacco's 8 starts this year. I mean, look at the difference in Cleveland versus Cincinnati. The guy threw for 470 yards against the Bears last week and 4 touchdowns. Look at the quarterback rating on the right side of each box as well. It's drastically improved since joining the Bengals. Over 103 straight weeks in a row. Never got over 76 in Cleveland. It's ridiculous. And so, Kevin Stefanski was asked about Joe Flacco having a good time in Cincinnati, and Stefanski said, I don't really have a comment on Joe or any players not on the team, so I don't think it's appropriate. The reporter said, I'm just saying the results are so contrasting. And he said, I understand the question, but I don't really have a comment. They're salty. It's clear as day. But to my point, Flacco being in the Bengals system, it's not just the great wide receivers. That offense is perfect for a 40-year-old veteran to just stand there and have guys that get themselves open. You can hit them. The Browns' scheme and offense was atrocious, and Flacco tried, but like I showed you, he had 8 turnovers with the Browns. It wasn't working. So, it's not just the wide receivers. I think it is situational as well. But that is a massive part of it. I mean, if we had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Flacco would look great with us, I'd imagine. So, this is where you're at. Might be a scheme problem. It might be a thing where every quarterback that comes to Cleveland looks bad and then goes somewhere else and they're in MVP conversations. Baker Mayfield. Now you're seeing it with Flacco. Is Kevin Stefanski the problem, ladies and gentlemen? Blame the coach? Type Y for yes in the comment section. Type N for no. I think Jimmy Haslam, too. You can go back to the years before Stefanski, and it's not been good. But Hugh Jackson was a terrible coach. I think it is a front office, ownership, coaching, everything about the organization up top is what is harming our results on the field. Quarterback specifically. We might have the guy sitting on the bench right now. We won't know until they play him. But we don't want this scheme to ruin him either. That's where we're at, Browns fans. Like I said, put that in the comments section if you think Kevin Stefanski is the problem. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Browns Report. Let's go get a win on Sunday. Beat those New York Jets. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and go Browns.